How I got into my journey as a climate activist was around when we were experiencing the water crisis here in the Western Cape in South Africa, and I saw how much it was affecting my family, but not only my family, my community as well, but our province as a whole. And that really gave me the drive to try and ask questions of why is this happening, and I really found out the reason behind it, and it was climate change, and that really just bombarded me with all of these fearful thoughts of global warming is real, and the planet might really be coming to an end, and that really got me climate depressed and climate anxious. But truly, by me joining Project 90 by 2030, that's how I started my journey in activism, where I learned about climate change, but not only the problems to climate change, but the solutions as well, like hydro, solar, and so on. And that really gave me the confidence and the boost to actually speak up about my story and hopefully encourage other people to speak out and question why our world is like this, and to hopefully get to the end of climate change.
Yes, I remember that water crisis in Cape Town pretty well. If we look beyond South Africa to the rest of the African continent, there are a whole range of concerns. Drought, as we've been talking about, water shortage, as you've been telling us, rising sea levels, worries about climate refugees. What are some of the biggest challenges on the African continent insofar as climate change is concerned?
I mean, as the African continent, climate change has affected us quite broadly. And the thing is, because we can't really articulate it, we only blame the things that we know. We try to say God is punishing us. We try to say that maybe we deserve this, and we don't really understand what's happening in our continent. But definitely the droughts that are happening, the loss of biodiversity, the effect on agriculture climate change is having, is really proving to show that food insecurity is going to be a wildly increasing thing in the African continent. And as we are a struggling continent as it is, we really need to start asking these questions, speaking up about our stories, and really taking charge to make sure that we are not affected by climate change.
How would you assess the level of awareness among people on the impact of climate change, on the challenges that it poses, on the dangers and risks that climate change poses?
How I raise awareness about climate change, I really need to start, what I like to focus on is intersectionality, because in the African continent, we are facing a vast majority of socioeconomic problems, and it's very hard for me to stop someone and tell them about climate change when they're facing poverty, when they're facing gender-based violence, when they're facing all of those kinds of things. So when I try to have a conversation with them and try to make them link the dots to climate change, it's much easier for me to penetrate through and get them to actually care about climate change, because they see how directly it is affecting them, and they see how it's making their daily struggles even worse. So by being an activist, you have to go out there, you have to engage in conversations, you have to talk to people on the ground and ask them what they believe is important, and link that to the climate crisis, so that they know if we come together and we work in solidarity, we really can conquer the struggles of our time.
I've heard you say before that the people who are least responsible for what is happening right now are often the most impacted by climate change. What did you mean by that?
By that, I mean that we see that the vast majority of people in Africa that get the most affected by climate change are the ones that contribute the least. I mean, we're not very developed, meaning we don't really contribute a lot to the economy, we don't really contribute a lot to fossil fuel production, and the people that are contributing the most are the ones that don't seem to be bearing the brunt of climate change. So that's what I'm trying to encourage here in the Global South, is that we introspect, we see where the problem is, and we try to speak out and vocalize, because we really are going to be suffering if we reach the point of 1.5 degrees and go further. African continent will be way hotter, so it's quite important that we start now and we start speaking up.
Right, you are involved in the African Climate Alliance and the Fridays for Future movement. Why is it so important for young people, young Africans like yourself, to get involved in this battle?
It's important for young people to get involved in the climate justice battle, because we are the ones that are going to inherit the planet. We are the ones that are currently inheriting the planet. And if we don't hold our elders accountable for their mistakes, then we are the ones that are going to be left to clean up a mess that we did not make. And it's quite important that we start now, so that we can also help future generations behind us to actually live consciously and build resilience for the fight against the climate inaction that's happening in our countries and in our world.
Global climate activists like yourself say they want to see more leadership on this crisis. They want to see action, not just promises. They want to see leaders act right now in implementing some of the proposals that we agreed to on the Paris Accords. And of course, we have COP26 coming up as well. What sort of action would you like to see?
I'd definitely like to see more young people on the streets protesting, asking these difficult questions, partaking in civil activities, and making sure that we are active society, we are active citizens in society, so that the people that are in places of power are not comfortable, and that they hear the wrath of the youth, and that they hear our struggle, and that they hear our pain. That will urge them to make more impactful change and not just give us lip service, because we are truly tired of that.